All right, Brian, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast with those details. With that, we shift our focus back to President Putin's visit to India. Viewers, we're expecting him to make his way to the Hyderabad House very shortly, where he has a critical meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. With the visuals on your screens are from earlier today, when President Putin was given a ceremonial welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan in the presence of President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi. But we are expecting more live visuals to come in very shortly, as President Putin, we've now been told, has left the Rajghat for the Hyderabad House. Joining me on the broadcast, Major General P.K. Sehgal and Dr. Jayajit Bhattacharya. Let me begin with Major General P.K. Sehgal. Major General Sehgal, a lot of discussion on the possible defense cooperation between Russia and India, and what the future holds. What, in your assessment, is going to be the big ticket announcements, sir?
The big ticket announcements are specifically going to be in 5 or 6 things. Firstly, as far as S-400 is concerned, we would insist that the remaining 2 squadrons be given to us by mid-2026. And we've also been having certain difficulties as far as spare parts is concerned. 36% of our defense equipment presently, Air Force, Navy and Army is ex-Russian origin. And because of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, there have been disturbance as far as the spare parts are concerned, which affects the operational preparedness of the Indian Armed Forces. We are going to insist that they are not only given to us in time, but even a joint co-production of these spare parts has taken. Also, we are wanting to insist that the long-range missiles of S-400, which has got range of 300 kilometers and above, are manufactured co-jointly in India. Then we are also interested in the S-500 system. If you notice, the S-400 system gives you protection to a certain region or a certain sector, whereas and can protect India or our airspace against 3 types of aircraft, 3 types of air threats, that is aircraft, cruise missiles and drones. Whereas the S-500, in addition to these, can also take on the ballistic missiles, nuclear ballistic missiles of both China and Pakistan and any other potential adversary. They can also possibly take on the hyper velocity missiles which are coming into vogue, and also the glide weapons which are increasingly being used by Russia as well as Ukraine to some extent. In addition, we are looking for the Su-57. Su-57 is a 5th generation stealth aircraft. China has already deployed large quantities of J-20 and J-35, which are the 2 stealth fighters that they've got, one equivalent to F-22 Raptor of America and the second one equivalent to F-35 claimed. And they are also likely to give 40 of the J-20 aircraft to Pakistan. So both of our adversaries will have stealth aircraft of 5th generation, which will be a huge disadvantage to India. Currently, we have got deficiency of 11 squadrons. We have to be present ready and not a future ready, as the Air Force Chief has been saying. Our own MCA, that is our own 5th generation aircraft, is not likely to be come out before 2035. Russia is offering complete transfer of technology, 100%, and they said we'll shift the factory to India within a matter of 1 year. We may possibly go in for purchase of 2 squadrons X in a flyaway condition and the rest be manufactured in India. Also, we are looking forward to upgradation of BrahMos into phase 3, which will increase its, firstly from a supersonic missile to a hypersonic missile with possibly Mach 9, Mach 11 speed, and also would increase its range to a much longer, at par with possibly the Tomahawk of America, which has got a range of about 3,000 kilometers. In addition, we are looking forward to combat drones, artificial intelligence, as well as electronic warfare assets, plus a nuclear submarine, which we want to take it on lease with effect from 2027-2028 for a period of 10 years, which could be armed with nuclear weapons or conventional weapons. It will be used for advanced training of the Indian nuclear submarine fleet.
All
In
right.
addition,
P.K. Sehgal, I request you to stay on with us, sir. We are now getting some information that President Putin has reached the Hyderabad House. Hopefully, we'll be getting some visuals from there live very, very shortly. My colleague Megha Sharma joins us from that location. Megha, over to you. What further can you share with our viewers? Visuals on the screens of President Putin and Prime Minister Modi at the Hyderabad House. We're expecting, of course, a discussion, Megha, but then also a joint press statement. What are some of the big ticket items, Megha, that the people need to watch out for?
I'm here at the Hyderabad House, Gate 3. The main entry, which is Gate 6, is where President Putin and Prime Minister Narendra Modi entered from. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was already awaiting President Putin's arrival, and he has done so now after his visit to the Rajghat. We saw those visuals just a short while ago. And of course, they now enter inside the premises, and they are going to hold those important bilateral talks. Amongst the key subjects, key matters that they are going to be discussing, of course, revolve around trade and investments. It revolve around labor mobility. They are also expected to be speaking about there's going to be speaking about defense cooperation, of course, civil nuclear cooperation that India and Russia have forged strong ties with each other in the last few years. Case in point being the Kudankulam nuclear plant in Tamil Nadu. Only yesterday, in sync with President Putin's arrival here in New Delhi, there was the nuclear fuel that was flown in from Russia into India. This is one of the 7 flights from Russia that would be arriving into India in the span of the next few months carrying nuclear fuel. This is also an indication of further strengthening ties between India and Russia when it comes to fulfilling each other's energy requirements. Moving to renewable energy is the focus that both countries have been working on diligently. But besides that, of course, we're talking about how there needs to be a trade deficit that needs to be, the gap needs to be filled, and filled very rapidly, and work is already being done in that regard. And we've seen the delegations that I already mentioned to you, the business delegations, there's the culture delegation, there are delegations from the cinema world that are present over here. So these are some of the key aspects that we are expecting those agreements and pacts to be signed. There are going to be up to 25 of those agreements and MOUs that shall be signed in the presence of the two leaders. There are intergovernmental agreements, and then there are also commercial agreements that we are expecting, we expect are going to be signed. Besides that, we have 7 of President Putin's key ministers who have traveled alongside him to India here in New Delhi. We have the Roscosmos director, we have the Ros Congress CEO who is heading the business forum, Russia Business Forum here in India. And besides that, there are a number of CEOs from Russian oil companies, including Rosneft, who are also present over here. So what is going to happen in the oil front, in the energy front, where India is a key beneficiary? India imports the largest percentage of its energy needs from Russia by way of crude oil. And while there has been a shadow that has been cast because of the American tariffs that has led to the reduced import of crude oil from Russia into India by a number of oil companies here in India. Can there be some adjustments made by way of even more discounted oil being sold by Russia to India? It's something that we all are speculating, and whether there could be any more deals in this regard that are going to be signed remains to be seen. Another important aspect is connectivity. When we talk about the international north-south transport corridor, that has been a key aspect to allow for not just building momentum, but exploiting this trade corridor, this transport corridor to its optimum by way of increasing the logistics exchange that happens on this route between India and Russia, that cuts down travel logistics time tremendously. And we have still not been able to exploit this potential to its maximum. And that's going to be, that there's likelihood that intergovernment agreement is signed in this regard. And of course, we talk about the Chennai-Vladivostok trade corridor, transport corridor, that again reduces the freight time to just about 24 days. That also needs to achieve its full potential. And these were some of the aspects that were also highlighted by the Ministry of External Affairs here in India, as well as the Secretary of President Putin, Dmitry Peskov, when he held that virtual conference. So keeping an eye out on all these economic and trade investment related MOUs and agreements that are expected to be signed today.
All right, Megha, thank you so much for joining us with that update. Let me also quickly rope in our guests at this point in time. Dr. Jayajit Bhattacharya, Dr. Sharad Kohli, Joyita Basu with us as well, Major P.K. Sehgal also with us. I want to take up something interesting here, Joyita. President Putin was just at the Rajghat. He's signed the visitor's book. And while he was signing it, this is the note that he's written. I'm just going to read out the translation. We'll try to put that out on our screens as well. But he wrote, one of the founders of the sovereign Indian state, a great humanist, Mahatma Gandhi, made an invaluable contribution to the cause of peace and humanity. His ideas about freedom, virtue, and humanism have not lost their relevance and are still relevant today. Mahatma Gandhi, in essence, foretold that new, more just multipolar world which is currently in the stage of formation. In his writings, Leo Tolstoy, whom he admired, pondered about the future of the world free from violence, aggression, and based on the principles of equality, mutual respect, and cooperation between people. It is precisely these principles and values that Russia and India uphold together today in the international arena. I just want to get your perspective of what do you make of this particular note that Putin has left in India, where he's talking about a more just multipolar world and a world that is free of violence, aggression, and based on the principles of equality and mutual respect.
Well, first let me tell you what the reaction from the West is going to be to this. They are going to call it hypocritical, they are going to call it ironic, primarily because what is happening in Ukraine right now, and whatever he is talking about, that Gandhi Gandhi was a symbol of, that is what exactly whatever little Leo Tolstoy, about equality and human beings and human life and all, he is doing exactly the opposite. That will be the Western reaction. At the same time, if you are looking at it in terms of whether he launched that war or not, yes. So, at that level also it does seem a little hypocritical, but at the same time this also brings us to the how he thinks, what is going on. He sees himself, or he sees Russia as a victim in this case. So, victim of Western violence in different ways, different means. It is an unequal through sanctions, through basically constant attempt to not just topple him, to basically break up Russia. So, if you see it at in that context, he would say, I am totally justified in saying this. It is also very interesting that he is talking about a multipolar world, because that is what, well, I am not certain whether Mahatma Gandhi talked about a multipolar world in exactly those terms, but yes, India has been talking a lot about the multipolar world. India talked about the non-aligned world at one point of time, although there is scope for skepticism there also, because in the name of non-alignment, we were basically very closely aligned with the Soviet Union. So, but at least in name it was non-aligned. And right now again multipolarity is important, it is extremely important, because I am just Devika telling you what I mean, these are my personal thoughts completely. It is extremely important, that is what India has been trying to do, and that is what India has, that is a principle that India is trying to stand by, and it is coming under immense attack from the West in particular for taking this stand that we are multipolar, we do not belong to any particular pole, and that I think Putin is very grateful. Russia as a whole, the Russian people are very grateful and appreciative of India for not abandoning Russia, multipolar. But I will play a little bit of a devil's advocate, and here, when we are talking about appreciating multipolarity, where does China stand in this? Because come what may, you cannot take out the China factor when it comes to any relationship with Russia by any country now. So, you see the whole point is Russia, I mean China is not saying it. Trump is foolish enough, Trump is a blabbermouth, Trump talks about it, Trump talks about a G2 world, a group of two. There is the Chinese, there is a one pole, there is a Chinese, and the other pole, that is there is the US. The Chinese do not talk about a G2 world, they talk about a multipolar world, but they are doing everything in their power possible to not only go for a G2 world, but they are pushing towards a world that is unipolar and where China dominates and no one else. So, you see, I mean there are so many layers and layers of to whatever he has talked about. So, frankly it is very difficult if we take it at face value. It is a great statement, it is a fantastic statement, but then Devika, I think we need to look beyond face value.
Okay, interesting perspective there. I want to bring in Sharad Kohli on this as well. Sharad, of course, when that image came out of Putin's message